I've been broke, down under a lot, depressed and not knowing how to make things happen.
He actually went from in debt $70,000 to building a 7-figure company. Daniel Fernandez.
I think AI is going to change a lot the way we do things, but I don't think it's replacing the relationship part of business.
Today I got a special guest on the podcast, and this is an individual that I met inside of a mastermind community that I'm in, the King's Brotherhood. You guys might notice the hat I wear a lot that says King, or even the necklace that says the King's Brotherhood. And this is a collective of high-performing entrepreneurs that all seek God first in their life and love to build business and optimize every area of their life. He flew all the way out here from West Palm Beach, Florida, to be on the podcast. This is a big deal because this individual is a special person. He is just so intelligent and so wise beyond his years. He is the CEO and founder of AMZ Clever, and he works in the e-commerce space. And he actually went from in debt $70,000 to building a 7-figure company. Welcome to the show, Daniel Fernandez.
Thanks, Cody. This is amazing. I'm flattered to be here, honored to be here.
Come on, man. Well, I'm honored to have you on the show, bro. And, it's kind of crazy getting to meet you, hear your story. We connected, again, not too long ago on Zoom, and we were just talking so much about business. And I want to kick the show off with a conversation that we just had before we walked in here. And guys, just so you know, sometimes I have conversations with my guests before we go on the podcast, and in my mind, I'm like, oh my God, we need to have the cameras and mic running. Like, this is so good. This is like podcast material right now. And you just told me that you just had your best month in business, right?
That's correct.
And then what did you tell me after that?
You asked me a very good question. What is going on, right, in life, and what is God putting in your heart, and mind? It's been my best month in business. I've been an entrepreneur since I was 16 years old. I'm 32 now. And it wasn't always like that. I've been broke, down under a lot, depressed and not knowing how to make things happen. And I asked, God for guidance and help. And I felt like that a lot of people, do the same. But then when things are going great, I don't want to forget.
Yeah.
So that's what I share with you behind the scenes before. It's
powerful. And it's just the concept of so many times in life when we're going through the struggle, we seek God. But when we finally get delivered from the fire and the adversity, we forget to continue to seek him. And that spoke profoundly to me, man. And I thought that's a powerful statement to share at the beginning of this show before we dive into your story, what you've done, the adversity that you've overcome, is just that constant reminder of, and am I honoring God now? Do we praise? Do we seek him? Do we worship him? Do we exalt him? Do we give him the credit? Do we build relationship with him when everything is going right in our life? Or are we only going to that place, that secret place with him, when everything's falling apart? And that was powerful. And for those of you listening to this, I ask every guest on the show, what is God speaking to you in your heart in this season that you feel called to share? And I do that because so often on these podcasts, there's almost this routine of just come in and share your story. And I don't want this just to be another podcast where we just share your story. I want to hear your story. The world wants to hear your story. But also, there is something right now you're going through that God is working in your life, and there is wisdom to be shared from where you're sitting, where you're standing right now. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So thank you for sharing that with us, man. Well, I will kick off with a question I love to ask my guest, and that question is, Daniel, what do you value most in life?
I would say progress, learning. Learning is a very intrinsic part of life. If we're not growing, I personally feel I'm dying. So that's one very strong area for me. Second is family. Family faith is a very strong part of my life also. Something that is new to me, and I'm exploring and learning more about.
Yeah, and you're walking it out.
Yes.
And you have a wife, correct?
Yes, wife and a small baby.
Beautiful.
6 months old.
Girl? Boy?
He's a boy.
Boy,
Yes.
what's his name?
His name is Benicio.
Benicio.
Yes.
Did I say it right?
Yes.
That's
You got it.
powerful, man. How does it feel to be a dad?
I am learning for the first time what unconditional love is as the giver of it. I can't think of another way to learn it unless, becoming a parent. To other people out there, I challenge them too. Like, and a lot of people know, that are parents. But that's what I am experiencing.
It's a level of selflessness that you've probably never experienced in the way that you do when this innocent little child comes into your life that you're responsible for.
Yeah, and it's amazing. Is very tied to manhood. I think real men have kids.
Yeah.
No offense to anybody out there, but
yeah,
it takes a man to grow, have a family and take care of it.
Yeah.
Yes, we can do that with our businesses and our employees, but that there's still a separation there. I think the closest is with a family.
Yeah. Well, in the word of God, he even said, go be fruitful and multiply. That man is meant to procreate, create family, cover family, protect family, provide for family, and be the prophet for the family. Hear from God, and spiritually, a man is the covering of his family. Do you know why when a woman walks down the aisle, it's so symbolic when the dad hands her hand off to the husband?
Tell me.
Because when you are a father, you are the spiritual authority of the family. You're the spiritual covering of the family. And, having a boy, you have a boy, it's a little easier in your boy leaving because he's going to go seek and find a woman and ask that woman's father if he does it right for his blessing. That man has spiritual authority. But when you have a daughter, you hand off symbolically. It means I'm handing off my covering over my daughter and entrusting you as a man to cover her. When you married your wife, you stepped into assignment where your responsibility is to cover your wife and your children. You remember, George Apsachea? Do you know who he is? Have you met him?
Heard the name.
Oh, he used to be in the Brotherhood. I don't think he's in it right now. George is a good friend. He's in San Diego, and hopefully you'll get to hang out with him while you're here for a few days. We talk a lot about this stuff, and I don't know why I'm going on this, but the Holy Spirit's leading me on this. And when a boy grows up, your son right now, as a baby, he receives unconditional love from his father and his mother. And he will for a while. And in Corinthians 13, I believe it says, when I was a child, I acted like a child, I thought like a child. And then it talks about becoming a man, and now I leave those things behind. The thing about being a man in modern day culture is the culture is shifting the ideology of what manhood is meant to be. Because I agree with you, a man does have a family, does protect his family, does provide for his family. There was a part of your life when you left boyhood to manhood. And when you leave boyhood, you have unconditional love. And when you become man, popular or to a contrary belief, this is not the opinion of the world, this is just kingdom. A man does receive conditional love. As a father and as a husband, your love is conditional. And I'll tell you why. Your job and your responsibility is to cover your wife and your son. Your job is to go out into the world and hunt and kill. In modern day, that's build businesses and make money. Back in the day, we literally hunted and killed. Like if we go back to caveman times and stick with me here, can you imagine like a man had to leave the cave, go days without food, trying to find an animal he could kill the thing probably with a club or, I don't know, a spear, drag the animal back. Then when he gets back to the cave, there's wolves trying to kill his babies and his wife, fight off the predators. Modern day world, we got to fight off predators from our family and our children. Then when that's done, he had to be emotionally available to his wife and listen to her and talk to her so the relationship is healthy. And then at the end of the day, he has a little baby and he's got to rock that baby and he's got to take care of that baby. Your love is conditional. Their love is unconditional that you have to give to them. That is manhood.
There's this show, I don't know if you've seen and I'm going to miss the name. It's a year, 1886, I think. I
think I've seen it.
The cowboy show. And there's a scene, there's a couple there with kids, that they are protecting the caravan of people that that came from Europe that didn't know they were targets.
Yeah.
From bandits and all kinds of things, right? And there's a scene, I don't remember it exactly, but the cowboy guy is coming back, and his wife just starts to hurry. The guy has been away for a while, maybe had to kill some people to protect them, and she's like stressing out to get him a cup of coffee as soon as he comes back. And maybe I'm butchering this, but she says something like, there's no more, what's the word I'm looking for? It's such a great thing as for her as a woman to welcome his husband with a warm cup of coffee. And what I perceived is, man, if you're in a caravan, it's not like today where you have espresso machine. Like making coffee is hard.
Yeah.
And do we grow coffee in America? No. Back in that day, you probably didn't have. The coffee was probably very expensive, and it was an import that God knows how they got it, right? So it was probably like a very special thing. Anyway, that was a quick thing of the Wild West.
Yeah, and it's powerful too, because that gesture it shows of her just wanting to prepare that cup of coffee because she knows her husband has been out fighting for her, protecting her, providing for her. And it's cool, man, to catch you where you're at right now, because you just had a baby that's a few months old, and you've been married for how long?
Almost 2 years.
2 years. So you're still pretty newly married, right? And I'm right behind you, right? Heading towards marriage soon after that. God blesses it, children. And it's cool because I love to hear from people from what God's got them going through right now, because there's lessons and wisdom to be shared from what you're learning. Man, marrying a woman and now having a baby, you could have been selfish most of your life, and you don't get to be selfish anymore. Like, whether you like it or not, you have a responsibility to husbandry and to fatherhood. And what I've seen it do in men is it changes something up here. And I know that God gave you the capacity. There's a reason man has stronger bones, has more muscle, and we have an ability, as people like to say, to compartmentalize. We can separate work from home, from this and that. We don't get as flustered. It's because we have capacity to steward what it means to actually be a man of the family.
Yeah, it also it puts everything into perspective. And I think before having a family, making money is like, I want to make money.
Yeah.
I should provide, but it changes to I have to provide. It becomes a non-negotiable, right? Before, and this is for people kind of like out there, like on the fence, do I want to have kids or not, or wait or not? Like, I think it will help more, it will help in business. If you're a man, entrepreneur out there, I think that's and you're on the fence, your wife is probably waiting for you to bring it up.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to help your business.
Don't live in that fear of, if I have children, it's going to take away from my business. It actually will do the opposite, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and I think maybe our generation, I think, is waiting a lot. It's not about waiting for the right time. There's the right time never comes. Is growing with, the same. When I for a long time when I was growing my business, I was very averse to, very fearful about hiring people. I was like, they're not going to learn fast enough. They're not going to do it as well. I'll hire more people when I figure out X, Y, and Z, until I figured out I need to learn how to grow with people, with a team. Otherwise, it's an excuse.
Yeah.
And for some people out there, maybe that's not a problem. But when I, the saying, right? Feel the fear, but do it anyway. Done that many times in my life. There's always been a exponential growth right after that.
Yeah, right after you overcome that fear.
Yes, that happened when, so I was born and raised in Peru. That happened when I moved.
When did you come to the States?
I was 19.
Okay.
So that was
that
one.
Tough?
Yeah, like butterflies in the stomach. That happened when, and then, I started, I got a very good job in sales. I was making good money early, in my 20s.
What'd you sell?
Apple. Okay. I was doing sales at Apple in San Francisco. And every year they were paying me more, and then at the peak of that I left. Didn't make sense, It took me 10 minutes to write my resignation email. It took me an hour to hit send. I was just staring at the computer for an hour. Imagine that.
Why'd you leave?
Because it, I started my first business when I was 16. The entrepreneur bug bit me hard, and I never recovered from that.
You never do.
Yeah.
Once you've worked for yourself, you never want to work for someone else.
So it was always there, but the moment that changed, the moment that was like enough is enough is no disrespect to anybody, but I walked back we had a break room, and I walked back, and in my mind I was like sales and business, and I just listened to this podcast, and I walked into a serious conversation about cupcakes, and maybe it was fun, right? But immediately that was like, I don't belong here. I need to get out of here. And shortly after, I did.
You left.
But it was very scary. That same feeling of fear, nervousness I had when I moved to China. And many people think, oh, you must have found a job or a deal or something. No, I did it with a tourist visa, But it was a crazy decision.
When did you go to China?
2017 until 2020. And it changed my life. It was the best decision I ever made. But I couldn't see that going in.
Yeah.
I can only see it now looking back. Yeah, and moving back to the States, and some business decisions are like that.
When did so you left your job at Apple because the entrepreneur bug bit you hard. Did you have a business at the time?
I had been trying things on the side, but nothing was catching on.
So you didn't have traction yet in business. You weren't making a bunch of cash flow, but you were like, you know what? I'm going to go all in on business.
That is too generous to say. These attempts were going negative.
Okay, you were spending money, but not making money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it made even less sense.
Yeah.
But I think that's when I started getting involved with Amazon.
Okay.
And it wasn't going well, but maybe, maybe there was less loss.
Did you see a Facebook ad about making money in e-commerce? What exposed you to e-com?
Yeah, specifically, I remember it very clearly. Walking out of Trader Joe's, just done some grocery shopping, and a friend of mine that was also in this, like, let's find a business, something to do. He just forwarded me a podcast, one of the first podcasts about the Amazon FBA business model. Remember, to this day, it was a Pat Flynn podcast. And I listened to it from start to finish. And then, I took action very shortly after. I took quick action, like, okay, I'm going to try this.
Now, when you took quick action, because I think this is important, you heard this podcast, you heard Pat Flynn talk about the Amazon FBA model. Did you go find a mentor? Did you pay a coach? Did you buy a course? Or did you just open an account and start figuring it out on your own?
Yeah, I think I read, I watched, I bought everything out there that I could find.
So you invested big time into yourself.
Yeah. No, I didn't have a lot of money. I was in debt back then. So I bought what I could afford.
Yeah.
And it was very early on, but there was information. But I took massive action in that direction.
Yeah. What obviously paid off.
Yes.
Yeah. So take us through the journey. Walk us through the journey. You quit your job, you get a podcast, you're in debt, you're not making money, you're figuring out this business model. Walk us through what life looked like. How'd you figure it out? What'd you have to do? What'd you have to overcome? What kind of debt did you have to go into?
So I started a small brand. Like, at that point, I was still doing the job. I had also studied a lot.
So you still were at Apple?
Yeah.
Okay, so when that podcast got sent, you had already kind of been working in the e-com space, but you quit and you still didn't really have it off the ground.
Maybe months.
Okay, months, yeah.
Maybe less than half a year.
Gotcha.
And so I got something off the ground, and I basically launched the product. It's interesting when you're just going off of theory, right? And it works, and you're surprised, right? Oh, wow, it worked, right? It's a very interesting feeling. I don't know if you...
Oh, I've experienced it many times.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Like, you don't know if it's going to work, and when it works, it's interesting.
When someone actually buys it,
yeah,
they pay you money.
It's like, did they really buy it?
Account, and you're like, wait, I created that?
They shouldn't have bought. You sometimes...
I'm new at this, right?
Yeah. So anyway, this product, this brand is sold out. Small shipments sold out, right? Which is one of the worst things that can happen in an Amazon business back then and even today, because you lose your ranking. So I was like, oh my God, but okay. Restocked, and then it sold out again. And then the third time, so at that time I was like, okay, something is going on, something good is going on here, it's happening here. So at that time is when I decided to leave the job, right? I'm gonna restock more product. And then I was at that time sourcing this product from Pakistan. And then
what were you selling? Do you remember?
It was like fitness accessories, like straps and things like that for the wrist, for the hands. And I was doing this with a friend too, a good friend of mine, and reached out to this supplier. And then their holiday, Ramadan, had just started. It was like a month long, and we couldn't get the product. And then on Amazon, that's really bad. If you're out of stock for a couple of days, it's really bad. You can recover from it, but if you're out of stock for a month, it's really, really bad, right? You know, I don't have like the specific dates in my mind, but around that time is when I decided to leave my job, you know, and pursue this.
Perfect time to leave your job, right?
Yeah, pursue this, you know, full time. Lo and behold, we get the product back, and it didn't sell as well. We had at that time, you know, there's tons of opportunity on Amazon today, but the way to go about it is different now than it was back then. At that time, you know, people were copying what others were doing super fast. Nobody was improving anything about it, and it would sell, right? And they did that. Some other sellers did that to us. So we lost our mojo, right? And I had left the job. That business didn't go bigger from there. And then I was living in San Francisco back then. I think at that time it had become ranked the most expensive city in the world, or at least in the US. And I was just living off of credit cards, you know, trying to figure that out. I remember I was looking for information on how to do Facebook ads. And I came across a book from somebody I think you know, Nick Answorth.
Yeah, I do know Nick.
And
we do some business with him.
Okay, great. And, you know, I found his book on Facebook ads, and the entire book was, you know, informative, but it was a funnel to take you to go to his event here in San Diego.
Genius.
And it was a free ticket. You know, you had to pay for it, but if you showed up, they would refund you the ticket.
Oh, that's smart.
Genius, right?
Nick's so smart.
Like if you run events and you want to get people in, that's it, right? Anyway, so I went to that event, and then that was another like butterflies in the stomach, you know, irrational decision, because he pitched a mastermind. It was $30,000 a year, and I was already down under maybe 10 or 20 grand. No job. The business was not going forward anymore, or very, you know, didn't really know if it was going to work.
Yeah.
Had lost that momentum, right? And, you know, what I saw in Nick was I decided to trust and, you know, signed up for it. All on a credit card. And it was a tough decision.
Oh, I bet.
It was not a decision from here, I'll tell you. It was those kind of tough decisions come from here.
I've made a couple of those.
Yeah. Anyway, so at that mastermind is when I decided to start the agency that I run today. A lot of it was through Nick's guidance, advice. I mean, he had also grown a Facebook ads agency, and I needed to get cash flow right now. I needed to stop. I need to start generating cash flow, basically, right? And time is the commodity right there, right? And anyway, from that agency, a few things happened. I found my first client, you know, for this new business, and then through one of the guys there connected me to our biggest success story client ever, or to date, right? It's a brand called Dr. Squatch. You might have heard of them.
Yeah, love the commercials.
And it's interesting. Like from that $30,000 investment that was all on credit card, without knowing what was going to pan out of it, I generated, and you know, probably through some connections there were other clients that came about. I probably generated $1 million.
$30,000 investment when you were already 20 grand in debt that you put on a credit card.
Yeah, it's amazing. But
hey, well, real quick, some of the best things in life are caught, not taught. Someone's listening to this right now. You're at your house. You're driving in your car. You're tired of your 9-to-5 job. You know you can do more. You're believing in more for yourself. There will come an opportunity when you begin to pursue, whether it's building your own business or something, God will begin to present doors to you. You'll see that ad. You'll go to that event. You'll hear that mastermind get pitched. There will become a fear that will fill you up. You can't afford that. You can't do that. You're already in debt. On the other side of your fear, and you just heard it from Daniel earlier, I'm another testimony, is everything that you want. My first one was $15,000, and I was in debt. Yours was double. You had a little more pain than me, and I was scared. But when I took that leap, I had an identity shift inside of Cody Cottle, and I think you did too. There was also a level of, this can't fail. Like, I'm screwed if this doesn't work out, which created a motivation that developed a discipline. But more importantly, it got me in the right room with the right people. It got you in the right room with the right people that led to $1 million plus in business. I just want to make sure you guys are catching this.
Now I understand what happened. So now we could, like scientists, break down. Basically what I did is I bypassed the process of networking. When you go to an event, you network, you have to filter through a lot of people that can be great people to meet, but you can't do business with them, right? Or they're at different levels, right? What I did is I all of a sudden put myself in a room of people that pay $30,000. And most of them were successful already, more successful than me. I was a small fish there, but I bypassed that process. I hacked it.
Yeah, you got a seat at the table. Even if you had to buy the seat, you got a seat at the table.
Yes, without knowing, right? So now I know how to play that game. I joined another mastermind.
That's how we met.
And that's how we met.
Now you're in a podcast studio in San Diego.
That's how this whole thing works, right?
People just don't get it. People don't get it. And there's as you grow in income, and maybe you'll agree with this too, I believe minimum 10% of what you make, gross even, in your company should be reinvested into the owner, into the networking, into masterminds, into coaching, into just getting in the right rooms, the right people, learning the right information. I continue to reinvest constantly, and I remember when I started out, my family's not entrepreneurial. My family thought I was nuts, thought I was crazy spending the kind of money that I've spent. Even still today, my girlfriend asked something, why would you do that? You don't understand that $5,000 ticket I just bought to go to that event, the $5,000 doesn't matter. Because one relationship in that room, one connection in that room could be worth $1 million.
Yes. And also just to go back to one thing is it was definitely not a rational decision at that time. And like if I had called my friend or somebody to look at it rationally,
they would talk to you out of it.
Yeah, unless I had done it, right? Now I understand what really happened.
Now, if you called me, I would ask a couple questions, like, about where you're trying to go, what the goals are, but then I would tell you if it's going to get you in the right room around the right people, go for it. I have a buddy, Angel. We had a thing for like 6 months. We were buying all these masterminds and coaching programs. Like, you just go on a spree when you start making some money and you've experienced it. A little too much too. You got to have some discernment. So we created this thing where we were like, hey, anytime we're looking to invest in something that's over $1,000, we're going to call the other person and tell them about it and just get like their wisdom on it. That was pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, it's looking back, it was also a room full of digital marketers. So it was a targeted audience too. Yeah. And it was San Diego. Look, I think San Diego, there's amazing people here. I personally believe 8 years ago it was popping for digital marketing. I don't know if it's still the case now.
It still is, but some of the OGs have moved Texas, Florida, Tennessee.
So there's a little bit of, there's faith, but there's also some people, might call it luck. Sometimes you just got to get lucky.
Yeah. Well, you got to put yourself in the lottery to hit the lottery. If you're not even in it, you're never going to hit luck. But I want to say something because you talked about it was irrational. One of my favorite quotes in the world is, the only people that change the world are the ones who were crazy enough to think they could in the first place.
Steve Jobs.
Yeah. It's really true, though. Guys, if you want to live an irrational, uncommon, great life, you will make irrational decisions that the people around you won't always understand. And you have to play your own game. And you have to trust your own intuition. And you got to seek God for wisdom and the Holy Spirit. As you fortify your people around you, you will build a network of trusted advisors, and those decisions will become more calculated, and they should. But at the end of the day, you're the one that has to pull the trigger. Don't let mom and dad who've never built a business give you advice about business. Don't let your college roommate that's your best friend that you call about everything that's never built a business that's in corporate America give you advice on if you should invest in a mastermind or not. Go to somebody successful that's built a 7-figure agency if that's what you want to do and say, how did you do it?
Also to answer that question and then to add to the story, this big client, when I took on this client, I knew a lot, but I didn't know everything I needed to know to be able to do the work. It was uncomfortable. It's like, and I'm not recommending this for every industry, but it's like getting hired to build a skyscraper and you just don't know how. I was hungry. And I am hungry, right? I knew I could figure it out. A good friend of mine, this is in China. He's a very successful software developer. He told me there is no job I've taken that I knew how to do before I took it.
It's good wisdom.
And this is just to speak to easy seldom takes you to where you want to go, or seldom happens.
If you're passionate about pursuing that, building that business, done is going to be better than perfect. And once you get the yes, you will figure it out. There's a lot of times in my life I've stretched. I remember the first time I had a marketing company. We were like a smaller company and we were growing. And I landed a client for a scope of work. It was $5,000 a month they were paying us on a 6-month contract. It's a $30,000 contract. It was the biggest deal I ever closed in my life. I worked so hard, and I probably had the team in place to fulfill on about maybe 40% of it. And then the contract got signed and I freaked out. And I was like, oh my God. Like this, but I had the capital now because they were paying me $5,000 a month, and I was able to go build the other parts that I needed to fulfill on I had a philosophy where in the process of doing that, we made mistakes. You're gonna make mistakes, and it's the scariest thing you're gonna deal with. But the client and me had such a good relationship that I was able to go to them and say, hey, you're right, we messed up on this, but we'll always make it right. I will always make it right, and we're gonna do this. And in the process of doing that, I fortified an offer that became my offer that made me the most money at the time. And I literally built it out off the back of a client that said yes with the cash flow that they provided, with the team I was able to build, and then develop the systems and the process to fulfill on the work. Sounds like you had to do something similar.
Yeah, and it doesn't stop.
Ever.
Like the reason, my company just had its best month. We also just signed our biggest client ever. Towards the end, it's like, oh man, like excited, but small part of me is like, man, I hope they don't sign, because I don't know how we're going to help them completely, but we're killing it. We're doing really well.
You're crushing it.
Yes.
And your business is very performance based.
Yes. And it is really about getting uncomfortable, because that's how business and life maybe works, right? We as humans, we are adaptable machines.
Yeah.
And we adapt to our environment. And then once we adapt, we can stay there, or we can stretch, right? And I think I literally now understand very deeply, if I want to get to, 8 figures and beyond, it's going to be a series of consistent moments of getting uncomfortable again. It's like almost like a bodily experience.
Yeah.
Like, this is not, I don't like this.
Does it get easier for you?
No, I don't think so.
No.
In fact, I think the more money, more problems, no? The
100%.
decisions, the mistakes can cost more, but I'm becoming wiser, and so I think there is on the risk mitigation. I'm becoming wiser too. I get humbled every day.
Yeah, you and me both, brother.
Yeah,
you and me both. I was just I had a guy on podcast today. We do back to back, and JD talked about like an entrepreneurship. Andy Frisella actually shared this. He said 90% of the time you're getting your balls kicked in, 8% of the time you're confused and don't really know what's going on, and 2% of the time you're like, yes, this is amazing.
That's a good ratio.
Every entrepreneur would be like, yep, that's about right.
Yeah, and it's like let's be real, right? For you and I right now, if we had to teach somebody how to make 10,000 a month, it just feels so easy.
Yeah.
It's like, man, like we could do it.
We could probably grab anybody off the
quickly.
street and get them making 10K in a month.
And isn't that crazy to believe that right now, somewhere here in San Diego, the same question about making 10 million a month, for them it's like, yeah, that's easy, right? For me right now, I don't even know where to start. I don't even know how to get to $1 million a month, you know? But yeah, that's experience and inching away.
But you're learning how to get 6 figures a month. You know how to do that now.
Yes.
Now it's just consistency.
Yes.
And then from there, we learn how to get to that next level.
Yeah.
The problems we solve at the different levels is different, right? Like I'm teetering in that 6 figure a month now myself. And the problems I solve are a lot different than when I was trying to get to 10K a month. And I'm sure when I get to $1 million a month, it'll be different problems too. So it's just interesting. But then it's like, okay, who's consistently doing 100, 200K plus a month? And how do I get in a room with you, which we are? And what are you doing that I'm not doing? And then when I get there, I'm going to look around and be like, who's doing $1 million plus a month? And I'm going to get in a room with them. Okay, how are you doing it? Oh, okay, I need this. There's different things I need to focus on here. It's a different level of scale. Then we're going to get to $1 million a month, be like, all right, who's doing 10 million a month? How do I get into that room? You just keep playing that game.
Right. And to give, continue that, you asked me about my story and all of that. To continue like the trajectory in business, if I had to really condense it, at the beginning, it was me doing all the work.
Yeah.
Right? And
break this down because this is going to be good. I know where you're going with this.
And that got me to a certain income level, right? Then I solved the problem of me doing all the work with assistance, right? And that got me to the next level of income, right? But there was a limit there, right? Then I solved the next problem, which is how do I get people to do the work, right? And I manage them. And that was a exponential growth in income level, right? And then to where I am, well, the next step is how do I get them to do that with assistance, right? And then the next level where I'm today is how do I get people that manage the people that do the work with assistance, right? So they're leaders. 3 layers. Yes, 3 layers already. And that's got me to the income level I am right now. The next level is a little, I'm discovering, I'm learning, but it's going to involve more different types of leadership, especially around, building a sales team. I heard the difference between $1 million a year companies and $10 million a year companies is $1 million a year companies CEO or one person is handling all the sales, closing the deals. $10 million a year company, they have a sales team. So that's what I'm working towards.
Yeah, that's good. And was it hard for you in the beginning? So someone wants to start a business. They hear us say it's easy to make 10K a month. They begin this journey. They're doing all of the work in the beginning. Was it hard for you to transition from you doing everything to getting assistance?
Extremely hard. Is the hardest thing, really, because when I'm doing all the work, I have to do so much in excess to cover for mistakes, and then to almost like spill onto the next level, right? Because let's say I have to make a living, I have to pay people. People don't come in ready to go. Often they are, if you're at 100%, your best hire is at 80% of who you are, or maybe less, right?
Yeah.
I think a lot lower than that, right? So as the leader, you have to bring in so much in leadership, results, drive, sales, expertise on the subject matter, right? To cover for these inefficiencies, to spill onto these other areas.
Yeah.
And I think, now I think a lot of people can't. I think entrepreneurship is maybe this is a good question. Do we discover entrepreneurship is for us, or we figure out how to do entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I think we figure out how to do it. I think that, as you go, I think anyone can figure out entrepreneurship, but I think you have to learn as you go. I think there's an evolution and an evolving through the process. I think discovering entrepreneurship is for you is also an aspect of it, because some people are going to enjoy the journey of learning entrepreneurship more than others. Like, I personally enjoy that every day looks different, that I'm constantly, even though the fires burn, I sometimes think if the fire wasn't here for me to put out, I'd probably be bored. If I had to show up to a 9-to-5 job today where I knew what to expect in that job, it wouldn't be the same level, because every day as a business owner, you're always solving a problem. It never ends. And at times that's daunting.
Exactly. So what I say a lot to my team is that the nature of business is problems.
That's it.
It's almost the fuel of it is simply how many problems you solve today or this week. And then sometimes I hear somebody in the team say, hey, just too many problems, It's like, well, that's what makes us valuable. Because if we're not solving problems, we're not being valuable. But they'll keep coming.
They do. And people will pay you very well to solve their problems. And when you get really good at it, and you build reputation, and you build brand, you can charge a lot of money to solve a problem. There was, I'll tell this story real quick if it's all right. Henry Ford, back in the assembly line, I can't remember the guy's name, but there was this engineer. He was the best engineer in the world for like in factories and assembly lines and all of that. And he helped create the system with Henry Ford that they use to manufacture the Model T. And all of a sudden, he lived in New York, and Henry Ford's in Detroit, Michigan, and they had their plant there. And all of a sudden, everything shut down. There was an issue inside of the system that they had that ran the assembly lines, and everything shut down and there was no production. And everyone's freaking out, and he had every engineer that he had on staff trying to solve the problem, working on it. Nobody could figure it out. Henry Ford walked into his office and said, call this guy. I need him. And he basically messaged him or telegrammed or whatever they did back in the day. I need you to come to Detroit. We have an urgent issue and we need you to fix it. You're probably the only one that can. And the guy showed up there and he went in and he tinkered around for about 10 minutes and he got it back running. And he sends Henry Ford a bill. He leaves and he sends him a bill for $10,000. And back then, $10,000 was
that was dope.
Quite a big consultation fee for 10 minutes. Henry Ford messaged him back and he said, don't you think this is quite a bit to charge for 10 minutes of your time? So he changed the invoice and he said it was like $30 for 10 minutes of tinkering. And then he said $9,970 for knowing where to tinker.
Yeah, wisdom.
When you know the wisdom how to solve a problem, I know a guy's, been paid 50 G's for probably 10 minutes of his time. But that 10 minutes of his time solved a problem that was worth millions to a company. And that's what we do, man. That's what we're in the business of doing. We're just in different niches.
Yeah. No, that's right. And also this year, right now, things are going well, but the beginning of the year has been really tough. I mean, we could talk about the economy, all of that. I know for some people it's been tough, disruption in their industries and whatnot. And there were some weeks where like, oh man, like this is just a lot going on.
Do you feel like quitting?
No, never.
You've never felt like quitting?
Well, okay, I have, but I know I'm not serious.
Yeah.
Maybe like for 10 minutes, but deep inside I know like, oh, come on, man, like this, we're going to go through this, right? But what I've done now to reframe, because again, like I said, nature of business is problems. We solve this one, there will be another one coming. Now I'm reframing things to get excited. It's like, if things are going well for a week, you know that the storm is coming soon. Now I'm just trying to get excited. Like, man, I can't wait for the next problem to happen. And I'm trying to instill that in my team. Like, isn't it amazing? Like, the next problem we're going to get, how is that going to feel? We're not going to know how to solve it at first. Somebody's going to be freaking out.
Yeah.
But then, eventually we will. And we will know now how to solve that problem. Isn't that exciting? So just trying to reframe things, because I don't think that's going away.
No, it never will. It never will end.
And look, we could talk about, the titans of our time, Elon Musk, like the type of problems this guy must be facing it's got to be pretty ridiculous. So I wonder what he does in his psyche, right? He probably just laughs,
Gets excited about solving it.
Right.
So, you have built there's a staple in society, right? We all talk about the 7-figure business, meaning you've crossed the threshold of $1 million in gross revenue inside of your company. What did it take to get to $1 million? Truly.
I think it takes having minimum people that do the work with some assistance or some proper structure that you manage. And I'm leaning even more towards you leading people that lead the people that do the work.
Yeah.
I think that's when it comes about for maybe more industries. I know that there is some very specialized skills, like a firm that is designing rockets. Maybe it's just 2 people, maybe with crazy big contracts, right? But for the most part, digital marketing, I think that's what it takes from my experience.
Yeah, you had to build that. And delegation, right? In business, I think it's so important. When we build out a business, we create a product or service that's viable that we can sell. We proof a concept, someone will buy it. And then we have to scale it from the way that we find our clients, the way that we sell our clients, the way that we fulfill and keep our clients happy, and rinse and repeat that process. And there's obviously more that you bolt onto there. But what you learn early on is, oh my God, I can't wear all these hats. You will literally work yourself into a grave. You could actually probably make $1 million in some businesses, like you said, on your own, but you will hit exhaustion.
Or it won't be sustainable, right? Or consistent.
Yeah, and that's playing the long game is the secret. It's cool if you can make $1 million this year, but can you do it over the next 10 years?
Right.
That's the game we're in.
And also the difference between having a job, running a company, right? A lot of us, and to a good extent myself, I still have a job. I mean, it's my company, but
owning a company and running a company, 2 different things. When you run it, you're an employee of that company.
Absolutely. Now, there's a point where I think that changes, and I'm not there yet, but it's part of the process. Yeah. But I think to answer your question in a different way, if you're the only employee of your company, if you're only wearing that hat, I don't think you break that point. I think you start breaking it when you have leverage. Maybe you're 50% or 75% working in the business, but part of you is working on the business.
Yeah.
I like the classic economist. The term they use is organized labor, right? It's a very interesting term, organized labor, right? Like people know what to do. There is a system in place that can be followed. I think that's how you get there.
Yeah, that's good. I had to learn that myself. It's interesting, as you were walking through those different levels, I was identifying like, which level am I at? And it's interesting, especially in this season I've stepped into in the last 6 months, I now have leaders on my team, and some of those leaders have equity because I want them to have full ownership of, I have a couple different businesses now, and those leaders, I spend the majority of my time now, it's took very long time to get here, casting vision for where the business is going, looking at the problems from a 30,000 foot view instead of up close, understanding why the problems are happening, what needs to happen to fortify it, what problems are coming in the future, and developing these people and the teams that they manage beneath of them. Our big thing, and here's the hardest thing for me, and I'm just curious, let's just riff right on this a little bit, because I think what's been hard for me, to be honest, Daniel, in this phase of business is when I entrust a leader with a lot of responsibility, and they even have employees inside of the organization that report to them, there's also that level of like, maybe you do feel like you could do it better than them, right? And you have to release control and let them do it. But there's this gap in this dip I've experienced. I don't know if it's just me. So we're building I know you're stepping into sales team soon. I know you do primary, the big sales still come through you. Well, I have a partner who now is sales director, and he has 2 sales guys and a setter underneath of him. And when we launched our Lead Flow Academy, I was the primary guy selling the product and crushing it. And then he had partnered and he was selling too, but I was out selling him, dude. He had like 3 sales out of like 20. Like it was bad. But there's this period of time where I needed to let him step into more sales and backstep a little. And there was like this rut of he wasn't doing very well. And I was freaking out inside, but I just had to trust him. And then boom, he started getting it. And then he got confidence. And then he got momentum. And then he solved things. And I was there to answer questions and to support and to pour in as he developed in this role. So we went through that. And all of a sudden, we're both selling and performing at a high level. At times, he performed better than me. And it was fun and it was gamified and we were making money. And then there was this level of where I went to him and I said, you need to replace me in sales in 30 to 60 days because this isn't my highest and best use in our company. You run that, you develop that, you build that. But then another rut came when we brought on salespeople. And it's like going back through the rut again of giving those guys the time to figure out, hit the bumps in the road, solve the problems, learn what they actually need, what it actually takes. And for me, I think the hardest thing has been the pullbacks in the cash flow. When I step back from a responsibility that I'm used to running, watching the cash flow dip before the rebound, freaking out that it's going to keep dipping. Have you experienced this?
Yeah, not in the way that you have. Which is the direction that I'm going. So thanks for the sharing your experience.
Hey, iron sharpens iron.
And what I would say is you brought up a very good point. Part of the reason I think it's working is because I believe this director of sales, you said, has some ownership. He
has small ownership. So what it's worth to him is so much greater than a paycheck.
Right. So that basically inherently there is leadership there, right? I think that is one way to do it. The other way to do it is executives, a different structure, right? It might not be owners of the business, but rather compensating in other ways, from the upside that is generated or whatnot, right? But the problem there is
highly paid.
Yes. I guess it's just a matter of playing what makes that person tick more, right? I think that for some, equity is amazing if the end goal is to exit or to become so profitable to have consistent distributions. I've heard a lot that a profit share is more realistic, in the short term, middle term.
It's probably actually way more advantageous. Having equity comes with responsibility too. Meaning business doing good or not doing good, you're tied to that.
Correct. So yeah, so I think it's that. I think the people beneath, in the org chart, just most people won't care as much.
Yeah.
Right. And sales is such a motivation driven, right? And hungry. You need hungry people.
Sales has to be managed, in my opinion, more than any other department. Because it's such an emotional roller coaster of people being on the front lines making offers. Times a lot of money's made, times money's not made. So the management that's required to maintain that ebb and flow of the roller coaster of selling on the front end of a business takes somebody that is truly leading those troops to march out every day and fight the fight. Now in administration, you can build the most amazing SOPs. Sharon gets up every day. She does her administrative work, and it's very easy. I just got to do this. I got to do this. I have an SOP for this. I know how to do this. And I feel like it's been so much easier to systematize those parts of the business, whereas sales, and when it's your business, you know your business better than anyone when it comes to selling it right now. There's no doubt about it. You put you in front of prospective client, the likelihood and chance of you closing that client is greater than anyone else. The hardest thing you're about to encounter is letting go of that.
Yeah, and also there's this thing called CEO syndrome, which is wanting to keep that control. It's chicken or the egg, because yes, you could, if you do it yourself, you'll probably get the best result, or nobody will care as much as you do, but you become victim of your own success, right? Because of that constraint, you can't get the business to the next level.
You lock yourself in a jail cell.
Correct.
Pretty much, in your business.
Correct.
Yeah.
So I also I have a mentor that for service-based businesses, he says they're usually like on the old school structure. Agencies, firms had 3 partners. In his mind, this is the structure that works. One partner is delivering the work, leading the department that delivers the work. I mean, if they are starting out, it's 3 people. So one partner is delivering the work. The other partner is selling, closing deals, and then the other partner is working on tomorrow's business, right? Is adding new services, refining the services. So now, if you're a 2-person operation, maybe 2 owners, one owner can take on 2 of these hats. The other one takes one of these 3 hats. But I do believe those are the 3 parts of an agency.
Yeah,
I can see myself shifting, on purpose or not, from one to the other.
Yeah.
Right. And especially because, the business landscape, digital marketing changes, right? Changes all the time. AI, man, like that is probably been one of the fastest changes.
Yeah, dude, we had to be an innovator in that space, and we position ourselves extremely well. My other company, Content Daily, which is the umbrella company, our marketing services, dude, they have dramatically changed. That industry, you think the industries have been disrupted so far? Just wait. What's coming with artificial intelligence, even all this content stuff, it's going to look a lot different because the tools to do this stuff are going to just be so optimized and enhanced and so available to the public that it's just going to change how we do all this stuff. Your industry is going to change. But what you can do is just keep being the first guy to figure out how to do it. Keep being the innovator. Don't be afraid of it. An AI tool comes out to help predict and sell on Amazon, or how you guys do stuff or post stuff or write stuff. Don't be afraid it's going to replace you. Just equip your team to use it. That's it. And just continue to stay ahead of it. In the future, running, Amazon ads and pushing traffic and doing all this stuff, your world's crazy to me. E-com, it'll just be different tools, but someone's still going to have to run the tool. Someone's still going to have to learn the tool. Someone's still going to have to understand it. Someone's still going to have to educate people on how to do it. And there will always be value there, and people will always pay for it.
Something interesting I've seen in my industry, the Amazon space, it's very common that brands out there, they already have an agency. A lot of the clients that we find are switching from another agency. I'm sure there's still some out there that, first time they hire an agency to do the work. But a lot of times the reasons people are changing is not because the other person, the other company, that the account underperformed. Most of the time is relationship problems. It's like, I just didn't like the way they were communicating, or they were not communicating enough, or I really didn't know what they were doing. So you mentioned about industry disruption and all of that. I think AI is going to change a lot the way we do things, but I don't think it's replacing the relationship part of business.
Well said.
Like that. Okay, maybe yes, there could be some things here and there that will change it, but that's probably going to be last, or it's probably going to be never 100%. And some entrepreneurs out there, for a good reason, are worried, right? And I'm not an expert on AI. You know an infinite amount compared to me, but I think
still
that
learning. There's so much I don't know.
I think that the investing in your clients, your customers, not using AI to hide, rather to expose yourself more, and then giving away for people to reach out. Like that's old school business. Like, we're here in person. I'm right now in San Diego. I'm going to LA. Then I'm going to Austin to meet with you as well at our mastermind. But all through these stops, I'm trying to set up meetings with clients, not taking the relationship for granted. I also heard, I'm a big fan of the PVD podcast from Patrick Bet-David, and he said something very good. He has a video about the how business goes on in the times of crisis, economic crisis. Interesting. And I think one of the things I remember, people will be more likely to do business with people they like. And it could be a client that you're killing it with results, but do they have a relationship with you? Or is it just the work? Even if results are going great right now, when times get tough, that for them, there's no investment, emotional investment, relationship investment. That's an easy way, like, okay, well, we just can't afford it or whatever, we're going to try something else. I think it's a lot harder to, when there is a relationship in place. And not just because that's an obstacle, rather a relationship allows for, thinking outside the box and really understanding the person more, making sure they feel understood.
Yeah, people buy people. I taught this for so long when I would teach on personal brand. People do business what they know, they like, they trust. And I think that's so valuable. And I think you're right. I think it's going to be funny because you understanding that's going to increase your value in business, because so many businesses are going so technological that they're removing relationship, which will make people seek and desire it so much more and find it so much more valuable. It's interesting how things work like that as we go in. I'm a relationship guy, so this is my favorite thing to do. If I could choose what I do all day, I love speaking on stage. I love making content like this. I love talking to people. Highest and best use for the company is let Cody go build relationships for our company. Let me cast vision to where we go. Let me learn from guys like you. Bring that back to my leadership team. Hey, I found out this. Daniel shared this on this podcast. I think this is a really genius idea. What can we do with this, guys? And then begin to run that. That's my highest and best use. There's this ideology being sold right now in business of like, I just feel like people don't think they have to work anymore. Like they don't have to develop relationships anymore. Like they don't have to show up in the room anymore.
We have a position in the company, one of the operation support, VA type positions.
Yeah.
We used to be very quick at hiring for that position, right? We usually hire that from overseas, Philippines mainly.
Yeah.
And we opened a couple roles a few weeks ago. We haven't yet. By now, they should have been already signed and hired and onboarded. We haven't yet. And I asked my HR person, she's fantastic, hey, what's going on there? And she's like, you know what? Now everybody's using ChatGPT. She was upset during my interview, and they don't know that I can tell because I'm copying some of what they're saying. We have a chat part, and I have this other, I don't know the name, you probably know it, this other app that detects if they're using ChatGPT, and she's getting yes on all the technical questions, and we're not hiring any of these people, right? So that is that is a concern I have.
Yeah.
Another thing I wanted to say, and sorry if I'm shooting in different directions.
You're good.
Is Zoom or video conferencing has been amazing. Obviously, it's changed the world. We had it for a while, but it's kind of become really, really mainstream. You and I, we've done Zoom calls and all of that. But man, I just, like for everybody out there listening, like there's nothing like the real life Cody. You know what I mean? And that for entrepreneurs out there, we have clients that we talk on Zoom all the time. They're happy and all of that. But I think the going in person to meet them is many times better.
It is.
And a smaller example is we have, my team earlier today we were on chat and this client was asking about something. There was an issue that happened, solved it over email. Okay, yes. Client response. Okay, thanks. And I tell him, call him and tell him. And he's like, but what should I tell him? Tell him the same thing you said via email, but tell him on the phone. And the response is the clients are just happy to hear. Is for everybody doing service-based businesses. I don't know if for some people has become a dirty job to call the client. Like I think it's trust me, it goes a long way.
Yeah.
And even if you just find an excuse, or my favorite is when the client's slow at giving us something that they should, and to just call them to keep them accountable. But it makes them happy for
personal touch. They took the time to call me.
Yes,
that means a lot to him.
But some people are looking at that like, call him.
Yeah.
Like, are we supposed to do that? But yeah. If I have to give a quick tip, you're in a service-based business, even your happiest client, just call him.
Yeah. And I actually we built out a role. It's just got built. It's called the Client Success Manager. And we built a role in our company, and I'm still working in that role. And Esther's going to fully run it. And then we're about to hire a girl that will come on and be that full-time as well. We develop it, but I like to work in every position. I build it out. I want to understand different things. And the Client Success Manager's job is a lot of that. We do bi-weekly one-on-one check-in calls for Lead Flow Academy, that one-on-one intimacy and support, but they're also checking in. They'll also give you a phone call. They might text you. They might email you. They'll get on Zoom with you. And that goes exceedingly and abundantly beyond anything else I've seen we've put together for clients. Just having that client success management relationship and role. And it's really cool, man. And I actually, it's just cool that we've developed this now, because I'm like, I can't believe I've never had this before, like this. A lot of times it was me. You know what I mean? Like, I'm the client success manager and the CEO and this and that. And, you know, if someone has a problem, I'm the one, I'll hop on a phone with any of my clients. But then, like, building an actual role and an SOP around that was, like, really cool. And the feedback on it's just, like, really amazing. And then hearing, like, what people say and their experiences, and just even you just see the difference of, like, people don't care how much you know till they know how much you care. And when they know you care and you go above and beyond and you take the time to check in with them, man, that right there could increase your client retention like 20, 30, 40% just from that.
There is always all of our clients are getting approached by competitors. It happens all the time, right?
Right.
And people do business with people they like.
Yep.
And especially if economically times get tougher. Back in the day, right? Like, the business were all relationships. You know, I think I forgot where I heard this, that back in the day in rural America, you didn't like someone, right? You would make an appointment with them, and then you would have a conversation. If you disagree, hey, I disagree with you, right? Or I don't like you did this. And then the other person was like, yeah, you know what? Like if you were doing business with somebody, they changed the price, or they scam you, right? You would make an appointment with them to talk about it and solve it, right? So I think the relationship is as strong as it's ever going to be.
Yeah, that's so good. Well, we got to wrap up here, Daniel. And as we do, man, anything else on your heart that you feel called to share with the audience, with anyone listening to you?
Your audience is primarily entrepreneurs?
Yeah, you know, it's a large audience of entrepreneurs and people that just want to be the best version of themselves and live fulfilling lives and accomplish. You know, there's still a lot of people that listen to the show that probably don't have a business, but they enjoy listening to these conversations because they want to start a business, or it inspires them to really step out and to be the best version of themselves today. I would say probably 70% entrepreneurs, though.
Got it. Well, this applies for both entrepreneurs now and entrepreneurs to be, that the only way it's going to happen that you get to the next level is taking risks and feeling that. You probably, if you're listening to this, think about the one thing you are afraid of doing, but you kind of know you need to do, right? Hire that person, spend the money on that. You probably finally saved enough money, but now you're just looking at it, you're not using it, right? That whatever that is for you, you probably now getting uncomfortable listening to this, it's probably in your stomach, right? But unless you take that uncomfortable decision, and yeah, you can mitigate the risk, but unless you take the risk, you're probably not going to get to the next level, right? Or it's going to be so slow that it is probably not what you want, right? So, and then if you're wanting to be an entrepreneur, it's going to be the same thing, right? Whatever you need to, you're thinking about doing, you just got to start. And it's not going to be easy. It's never going to be perfect. And if it's perfect once, it's rarely perfect again.
Yeah.
So you just got to take action and get used to that feeling, because you and I have acted on that feeling many times and probably will continue to do so.
Couldn't have said it better myself, guys. Take risks. Go for it. What's the worst thing that can happen? You fail, you learn, you get back up, you try again, and this time you're a little wiser, you're a little more stronger. Go make today great. Daniel, thank you, man, for flying out here. I don't take that lightly. Thank you for, flying all the way across the United States to come here, to be on the show today, to share this wisdom, to share this knowledge. It means a lot, and I know people's lives are going to be impacted and changed because you were willing to show up.
My pleasure, and it's an honor.
Come on, guys. Well, guys, where can we follow you at? Where can people connect with you? People want to learn from you. People want to work with you. And your niche is you work with consumer packaged good products primarily, right?
It's very simple. Consumer packaged goods, aka CPG products. You had some early success there. We can probably help you a lot on Amazon, or if you're not even there on Amazon, we can probably make it happen. If you're a seller, some people already have been in the Amazon space for a while, and you want to keep growing, but you are the bottleneck, we can help you. Like we've worked with, we have one client that has exited their Amazon brand 3 times already. They're on the 4th one. You know, they just keep doing it this again and again, only because they're not doing everything themselves, right? And then finally, if you created something, maybe pre-revenue, but you're approaching this as a business, you have something very special, not just a Me Too copycat product. We can probably help. We have a very careful conversation and process to make sure we see potential, and when we see it, it's been great. It's been fantastic. So that's what my company can help with. I'll open up my email, something that people sometimes say no, don't do, but I don't care. Daniel at AMZ Clever.com. If you want to talk business, if you just want to reach out, if you liked what I shared, what we talked about today, always happy to connect. I heard a saying, I just want to finish off with this, if you don't mind, that as entrepreneurs, CEOs especially, we should be kissing frogs all the time. And this is no disrespect to anybody, but kissing frogs all the time, you never know what it turns into a prince, right? So the story says. But I'm open to speak with everybody, and if I can add value to you.
Let's go, man. Welcome to the show, guys. Take that information, connect with Daniel, especially if you fall into any of those categories. And I'm just praying and believing that you guys are going to make this week a great week. See you on the next episode.